Chapter 1. The Orange Sun and the Warm Smell. The sun peeked over the top of the glass buildings, painting the sky the color of a soft orange. Leo felt the first warm stripe of it on his cheek. He blinked his eyes open slowly. One blink. Two blinks. The world came into focus. The dark green slats of the park bench he was sitting on, the tiny dewdrops clinging to the metal armrest like little jewels, and the big, sleepy city yawning awake all around him. A street-sweeping truck rumbled past on the road, its big round brushes whirring like a giant's toothbrush. Swish, swoosh, swish. It left behind a clean, damp path on the pavement. A flock of pigeons, who had been pecking at yesterday's forgotten crumbs, scattered into the air with a loud flap of their wings, then settled back down a little farther away, cooing and bobbing their heads as if they were having a very serious morning meeting. Leo's tummy gave a little rumble. It wasn't a loud rumble, more like a quiet question. He sat up and stretched his arms high above his head, reaching for the orange sky. His back made a little popping sound. He swung his legs off the bench and his worn-out shoes made a soft, scuffing sound on the gravel path. He didn't have a watch to tell him the time or a phone to see a picture of the sun. He just knew it was morning because the air smelled like morning, a little bit cool, a little bit damp, and full of possibilities. As he started walking, a new smell joined the morning air. It was a warm, sweet, wonderful smell, the smell of baking bread. His feet seemed to know where to go. They led him out of the park and down a quiet side street. The smell got stronger and warmer, wrapping around him like a hug. He saw the source, a small shop with a bright blue door and a window filled with puffy golden loaves of bread and swirly pastries dusted with sugar. A man in a white apron, with flour dusting his bushy eyebrows, was sliding a long wooden paddle into a brick oven. He didn't see Leo. He was humming a tune that didn't have any words, a happy, busy sound. Leo stood outside, his tummy giving another, slightly louder rumble. He just watched. He watched the baker knead a big pillow of dough, folding it and pushing it, folding and pushing. He watched a woman with a bright pink coat and a wiggling little dog on a leash stop, buy a long loaf of bread and say, "Have a lovely day, Mr. Henderson." Mr. Henderson just grunted, but a small smile touched his lips as he handed her the warm bag. Leo wasn't the only one watching. A tiny brown squirrel with a very fluffy tail, which Leo decided to name Squeaky, was sitting on a nearby lamppost, twitching its nose, sniffing the bready air. Squeaky looked at Leo and Leo looked at Squeaky. They both understood. The smell was the best thing in the whole world right now. As Leo turned to walk away, his eyes caught a tiny glint of something on the pavement, right by the leg of the bench he had just left. It wasn't a coin. It was too small and too sparkly. He walked back, bent down, and picked it up. It was a little glass bead, smooth and cool in his hand with a swirl of deep blue inside it. He closed his fingers around it, making a fist. It felt like a secret. He put the secret in his pocket and walked on, the warm smell of bread slowly fading behind him. Chapter 2. The Whispering Fountain and the Chalk Girl. The sun was higher now, a bright yellow circle in the blue sky. The city was no longer yawning. It was wide awake and humming with noise. Cars honked their horns in a short, beeping language Leo didn't understand. People walked quickly on the sidewalks, their shoes making a clack-clack-clack sound. Leo's feet, moving without any particular plan, led him to a big open square. In the very middle of it was a giant fountain. Water shot high into the air and then tumbled down over the stone shoulders of smiling mermaid statues, splashing into the big pool below. The sound was a constant, gentle whisper. S-H-H-H-H-H-H, splish splash S-H-H-H-H-H-H. Little birds dipped their beaks into the pool for a quick drink, shaking their heads and sending tiny droplets flying. Leo sat on the wide stone edge of the fountain. The stone was warm from the sun. He took the blue glass bead out of his pocket. It was a little dusty. He dipped it into the clean, cool water of the fountain and rubbed it with his thumb. The water washed the dust away, and now the bead gleamed. The swirl of blue inside looked like a tiny galaxy. He held it up to the sun, and it cast a little speck of blue light onto his hand. "What's that?" The voice was small and curious. Leo looked down. A little girl was sitting on the pavement nearby. She couldn't have been much older than 6. She had 2 bright red ribbons in her curly brown hair, and her knees were smudged with all the colors of the rainbow. She was surrounded by pieces of chalk, pink, yellow, green, and blue. She had been drawing a giant, smiling cat on the gray paving stones. "It's a sparkle," Leo said quietly, showing her the bead in his palm. The girl scooted closer. Her name, she said, was Lily. She didn't ask Leo for his name. She was more interested in the sparkle. "It looks like a dragon's tear," she whispered, her eyes wide. "Are you a dragon keeper?" Leo thought for a moment. He shook his head. "No, I'm just its finder." "Oh," Lily seemed happy with that answer. She picked up a piece of blue chalk. "I'm drawing Mittens. She's my cat, except my Mittens isn't this big, and she doesn't smile like that. She mostly just looks grumpy and asks for snacks." She giggled. A woman sat on a bench not far away, reading a book. She had kind eyes and she glanced over at them, smiling, before going back to her page. She was watching, but from a distance. Lily went back to her drawing, her tongue sticking out of the corner of her mouth in concentration. She drew long, curly whiskers on the cat with white chalk. Leo sat and watched her. He watched other people in the square, too. A man in a suit was talking into his phone, walking in fast circles. An elderly couple shared a sandwich, carefully tearing it exactly in half. A teenager on a skateboard rolled past, the wheels making a rumbling sound on the stones. For a long time, neither Leo nor Lily spoke. The only sounds were the whispering fountain, the distant city hum, and the soft scritch-scratch of Lily's chalk on the ground. It was a comfortable silence. The world was busy all around them, but right there, by the fountain, time felt slow and peaceful. Chapter 3. The House of Quiet Pages. A fluffy white cloud drifted in front of the sun, and then another. The bright yellow light of the square turned a soft gray. A cool breeze rustled the leaves of the trees planted in big pots around the square. One drop of rain hit Leo's nose. Then another landed on Lily's chalk drawing of Mittens, making a dark spot on her smiling face. "Oh no," Lily said, looking up at the sky. "It's starting to drizzle." The woman on the bench closed her book and stood up. "Come on, Sweetbea, time to go," she smiled at Leo. "It was nice of you to watch her drawing." Lily gathered her chalks, putting them back into a small cloth bag. "Bye, finder of sparkles," she called out, before taking the woman's hand and hurrying away. The rain began to fall a little faster now, making tiny circles in the fountain's pool. The other people in the square began to walk faster, pulling up hoods or opening colorful umbrellas that bloomed like sudden flowers. Leo felt the dampness on his shirt. He needed to find somewhere dry. He saw it across the street, a big stone building with wide steps and tall glass doors. Above the doors, in carved letters, it said, "Public Library." It looked old and important, like a quiet giant. Leo walked up the steps and pushed open one of the heavy wooden doors. The air inside was completely different from the air outside. It was warm and still, and it smelled of old paper, wood polish, and silence. The noisy city sounds were gone, replaced by a gentle rustle of turning pages and the soft tap-tap-tap of someone typing on a computer. Rows and rows of tall shelves stretched out like canyons, all filled with books of every color and size. Sunlight, now pale and watery from the rain, slanted through the tall windows, lighting up dust motes dancing in the air. A very tall, thin man with glasses perched on the end of his nose stood behind a long wooden desk. He was carefully polishing his glasses with a small cloth. He looked up as Leo entered, gave a small, polite nod, and then went back to his polishing. He didn't seem to mind that Leo's shoes were a little damp. Leo walked slowly down one of the aisles. He ran his fingers along the spines of the books, reading the titles: Adventures in the Amazon, The History of Clocks, 100 Ways to Bake a Pie. He felt very small among all these stories and all this knowledge. He found a section with children's picture books. The chairs here were small and colorful. He sat down in a bright yellow one that was surprisingly comfortable and picked up a book with a picture of a blue boat on a big, wavy sea. He didn't read the words. He just looked at the pictures. A little boy on the boat, a friendly dolphin jumping, a lighthouse on a rocky island. The pictures made him feel a quiet sort of happy-sad, like he was remembering a story someone had told him a very, very long time ago. He stayed there for a long time, just turning the pages, while the rain pattered softly against the library's tall windows. Chapter 4: The Squeeze Box and the Shared Apple. The rain had stopped by the time Leo left the library. The city had a freshly washed look. The streets were shiny and dark, and puddles on the sidewalk reflected the gray sky like broken mirrors. The air smelled clean and wet. As evening began to settle, the streetlights flickered on one by one, casting warm yellow pools of light on the pavement. Leo's tummy was rumblin'.